What is going on, coaches? Hunter and Sherb from Team Misfit here today to walk you through a step-by-step method for teaching athletes how to split jerk correctly. Split jerk is one of those movements where we can get athletes to put a ton of weight overhead, but it's hugely dependent on a whole bunch of things: footwork, rack position, timing, basically everything athletic that we need athletes to be able to do. We need them to do it in the split jerk. So it's a tricky movement, but we're gonna teach you how to teach athletes. So the first things first is we need to get the setup position established for the jerk. Once the athlete takes the bar out of the rack, where do their feet start? Now, Sherb's gonna widen his feet into about his squat stance, give or take. Now, this is gonna depend heavily on the proportions of the athlete. Some people will benefit from a slightly narrower stance, others maybe a little bit wider, but in general, this is a good place to start. We want the toes also generally pointed north-south so that as Sherb dips, which we'll talk about later, he's able to push those knees out while keeping the feet flat. Okay, we've established the starting position. Now we need to actually go to the finished position. So what does that receiving position look like? The easiest way to do this is Sherb's just turning for the camera here, but he's gonna basically go from that standing stance to a lunge. And as the coach, what I'm looking for here is the shoulders to be over the hips and the shin and rear thigh to be vertical. Okay, this is the starting point. We're also gonna have the athlete's back big toe kind of canted, pointed at his front big toe. This is gonna create a little bit more stability in that receiving position with some internal hip rotation. From here, I'm gonna have the athlete come out of that lunge about 12 inches or so. Okay, so now we kind of reassess. Are we still hitting those major points? Vertical shin, vertical thigh. Are his feet wide enough left to right? Sure, I'd maybe have you come out a little bit wider. Okay, that wide stance is important. And then if that's not super comfortable for the athlete, we can adjust. This looks pretty good. And now I'm gonna actually have Sherb put his arms over his head to kind of get a feel for what this would be like if we had a barbell. Once we have this position established, we immediately teach the athlete that in order to recover, we bring the front foot back and then the back foot forward. Okay, so now that we've established kind of the starting position and that finished position, we're gonna have the athlete work on a few splits just from standing. So Sherb's starting in his kind of with his feet in his starting position, and I don't even really care about the dip too much right now. I'm just gonna say go, and Sherb is gonna try to split and land with his feet in the correct spot. Go. Okay, again, coach, we're looking for that vertical shin, vertical thigh. Are we on the ball of the toe pointed with it towards that front foot? Arms are overhead, and we've got that shoulder right over the hip. This is an important point as well. Recover, boom. We're gonna have the athlete do that a handful of times. They need to get comfortable with that receiving position. Now, once they've done that, we can start to talk about the dip. Still no barbell, but we'll talk about the dip. Go ahead and face forward for the camera, Sherb, here. So we've got his feet pointed north-south, the correct width for him. When we go to dip, what I'm looking for is Sherb to push his knees out and him to sit straight down over his heels. You want to turn the side so the camera can see that side angle. When he dips, he's not letting his hips slump forward. Give us that muted hip, okay? Really common fault. Go ahead back to the correct one. Nor are we seeing him pitch too far forward, because if he's got a whole bunch of weight in the front rack, well, we know what's gonna happen there. So he sits directly down. I'll have him pause for a second, make sure he feels his weight over the middle of his foot, and then I'm gonna say jump and catch, and he's gonna jump and land in that receiving position. And at this point, we can even put that invisible barbell overhead. Once he feels stable, good, let's do that one more time. Dip, go, and recover. Great. So once he can demonstrate that we've got the proper dip mechanics, we've got that proper receiving position, now we can get either a PVC pipe or a barbell into the front rack. So Sherb's gonna grab his bar, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the front rack. Now, typically we'll see the athlete doing split jerks either out of the rack or after they've stood up some sort of clean. But what we're looking for is, much like a front squat that we talk about often, is that kind of W shape that we create with the elbows. So we go wrist, elbow, shoulder, elbow, wrist. We kind of create that W shape. The barbell needs to be resting above the collarbone on top of the shoulder. This is a super common fault. Can you give us the kind of low position? Yeah, athletes for whatever reason, love to be in this position, but we can't transfer energy from the hips into the barbell like that. So we get the bar resting on the shoulder. The elbows are slightly in front of the barbell, and he's got, to the best of his ability, the entire hand wrapped around the barbell, not that fingertip grip. Okay? Once we've established this, we just need to kind of go over the things that we just talked about. So let's go through that dip. So we dip. Awesome, he's not pitched forward. Now that we've got a little bit of weight, it's really important that we sit straight down and jerk and recover. Great, let's turn to the side for the camera here. Do one more. Again, we're looking for that, when we see that dip, his hips are right over the knees are tracking out, torso nice and vertical, and jerk, and freeze in that receiving position, vertical shin, vertical thigh. That barbell is stacked nicely right over his hips, and then he can recover. Front foot, back foot. And you can relax. Okay? So, lots of things to talk about with the split jerk. The footwork is probably the most frequently kind of mistake made by athletes, not quite getting the correct footwork. So you can really, really hammer that like as many times as you want as a coach without even an empty bar. Really get them comfortable landing in the correct spot. Then we need to talk about the dip mechanics, making sure that we sit straight down. We're not sending our hips way back, nor are we getting that muted hip and going super far forward. Then we need that barbell in the front rack. Now that we're starting to get load, we want that barbell positioned in the right spot with the correct grip. And then finally, we start to put all those things together with some empty bar split jerks, some light split jerks, eventually getting as heavy as we can to get the most weight put over our athlete's head. If you can remember those things, probably not remember, maybe watch the video a couple times, get that teaching progression drilled into your head so that you can teach your athletes that. You're gonna have athletes putting a lot more weight over their head, safer, more efficiently, and they're gonna have a lot better of a time. Give it a shot. We'll see you next time.